it's very interesting when you start a company, because I started a variety of companies with other people, and then my last company I started by myself, and I found it to be the most incredibly lonely experience to start something on my own. You, as a co-founder, describe a little bit about, I know obviously in any founding relationship there's challenges. I know in my every co-founder I've had, I've hated at different times of the journey. They've driven me crazy. But like, as you think about that journey, how important was it to have someone along the journey with you that wasn't just your like board of directors, but it was actually your partner?
Yeah. If there's one lesson I've learned, more so than anything over the years, it's been that the team you build is the company you build. And assembling the right team around you is just so foundational for success. And whether that's your co-founders or your early stage investors, or your early employees, I mean, they set the tone for what you as a company value and what you focus on. And so I think it's critical. I know for me personally, just my personality is that, I thrive off of other people, and I need that energy and that the ability to be able to engage with and debate with others. And so that's just a big part of me being successful is being able to have that, whether it's within the company or outside of it, those resources, those people that I can bounce ideas off of. But like you said, Jeff, I mean, this is an incredibly lonely journey. And so much of this is about mindset. And mindset ultimately is about creating the right habits and bounce back muscle, if you will, so that when you hit a wall, because you're inevitably going to hit a wall, you're inevitably, deal's not going to close, investors going to pull out, key employees going to leave, you're going to be close to the edge when it comes to your bank account, or any number of existential threats. It's like how you respond to that that's probably the most important. And I think whether it's your founding team or whether it's the folks that you assemble along the way, they're going to be a big part of how you respond, and choosing them wisely is so critical. And so, like you said, whether it's your investors, whether even if they're participating in a angel round and they're not actually on your board of directors, they're going to be a part of your story. And so you need to think closely about whether they meet your values and meet your criteria. And if they don't, you may want to think twice about whether you actually include them. And I know I know it was hard for us. It's certainly hard for me when in those early days, you're really scraping by. You're trying to be as resourceful as you can and get capital in whatever format you can. But you be careful about who you choose to work with. Be careful about who you raise from. Be careful about who you listen to for advice, because that's really going to dictate, I think, your success. I know it did for us.
So I kind of think I might know the answer to this, but if we go back to the idea and mesh the two last thoughts you had, which is like the personal board of directors, and then be careful who you choose to hang out with or take advice from. What advice would you give to like a first time founder that comes to you and talks to you about their idea? And clearly you would probably talk to him about this like personal board of directors, but how would you tell him to choose, or he or she to choose?
One of our early angel investors gave me this advice. I thought it was so helpful as just a framework. It was, sort your investors, sort your co-founders, sort your team, however you want to, into A's, B's, and C's. The A's get it. As soon as you pitch them, they're sold. They're already on board. They're ready to write the check before you even finish that first conversation. The C's don't, but they tell you. They're upfront. They tell you the reasons why. They're open about the fact that they're not going to participate, and here's why. And you end up wasting all your time on the B's, trying to convince them to become an A, trying to convince them that with an additional piece of information or data or evidence, they're going to actually write you that check, and they just never will, right? And I think that's true. That sort of framework is really valuable. Is to say, like, can you talk to other entrepreneurs? Can you talk to other people you trust who can help provide a filter for you to find other A's? Find the people who are already bought into this concept, who may have already been vetted in some way. Maybe they've worked with that person before. Maybe they've raised from that investor before. They know what they're like actually in the moment when they're, when you're in the grind, and they can vouch for that, because at the end of the day, that's actually the only data that matters.
The people that totally disagree with you, totally challenge you, right? Do you think do you end up having any kind of relationship with them going forward? Or do you feel, because I do think those people are really important, because they are, to your point, like the people that give you very transparent feedback. and maybe they're not bought into what you're doing, but they have enough of an authority, like they, I found myself at times gravitating towards those people and wanting to not convince them necessarily to come invest or whatever, but ultimately trying to use them as a sounding board for different ideas that I have to see if, can it get past that test of those people that are naturally skeptical. It's like some of your supporters always, I think, will be your supporters regardless of sort of what you put in front of them.
100%. So maybe to be clear, both the A's and C's are valuable. What I maybe was emphasizing is avoid the B's. You end up spending all your time and energy trying to convince them when they're not going to be straightforward with you. They're not going to be transparent. They may have other whatever any number of reasons why they're not actually going to invest or join, and they string you along. I'd much rather have the C's who have the courage to be able to tell you why, right? Why or why not. And that's just as valuable as those who are willing to back you and be a part of the journey. And I think those people you should continue to cultivate. I can think of one really well-known investor who we pitched in our seed A, B, C, and they rejected us every single time. But every time after our seed, they sent us they wrote up an investment memo and they just shared it with us. They did the same thing after A, they did the same thing after a B, and then the C, we grabbed drinks and they gave us the feedback verbally, but it was so helpful because they were just honest with us about the reasons why not. And those are people that we still turn to for advice, even though they're actually not officially a part of the team in any way. And those are people that, I send, potential deal flow or candidates or other folks to, because I found them to be really helpful. And I know how straightforward they'll treat other people.